Hi, it's Bumble. Welcome back to my channel. This isn't a movie I was planning to do a review on. It's just, I literally just finished watching this actually. And this was my second time seeing this movie. And my feelings towards it have changed, and there was some things that I thought were pretty cool, so I thought, why not? I'll talk about it. In terms of Marvel movies, because I know it's one of those series where there's like a ton of them, and you have to see them all in order and whatever. I have not. I only really got into the Marvel movies once the Guardians of the Galaxy movies came out. Like, I was aware of them and stuff, and I remember seeing them like come out in theater. I think they started in like released with Iron Man, in like 2008 or something. So I was still like a kid when these were coming out, where I wasn't really interested. I didn't really know anything about them. And then I think Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, came out in like 2014 or something. So I was like old enough at that point to kind of get into them. And I remember going to see it in theaters, and I thought it was hilarious. And that was kind of the point I was starting to get into like Marvel movies. I don't think I've seen like every single movie like after that point, but I was like trying to get to them. I'd at least seen like Infinity War and Endgame, and those are like the big important ones for like this movie. I've seen the other two Guardian movies, and it's kind of funny because, like I said, this is my second time watching the third movie, Volume 3. The first time I watched it, I didn't even plan to or anything. Like, I was going to probably see it eventually or whatever. I was at a mall with a friend on my birthday, and there was a movie theater there, and we weren't really doing anything, and I saw it was playing, and I was like, yeah, let's just go see this movie. And I cried. I remember I cried in theaters. So it was a very spontaneous thing for me to like go see it, and I'm glad that I did, because otherwise I probably wouldn't have watched it or anything. But it's one of those where I wish I had at least rewatched, or had the ability to. I don't remember if I had like Disney Plus at that point. Volume 1 and Volume 2 beforehand, because it's like a trilogy and everything, but also I think it would have refreshed me on some stuff, because like the first time I watched this movie, I was like confused about stuff. I was confused on like why the Guardians, their HQ was like an entire city, and who Cosmo the dog was. And my friend had to like, I felt kind of bad because I was asking. I'm not really like loud in theaters. I try not to. Like, if I have a question about something, or I make a joke to the person next to me who's like my friend or whatever, I'll like whisper it to them. Like, I try to be respectful, but I remember I was talking to my friend during the movie, and I was trying to ask things or whatever, and I kept it brief. I wasn't trying to distract them or whatever, and they were cool with it. But yeah, that would have helped me the first time I watched it. But I mean, I was still already familiar with the characters and stuff, but I think not remembering everything from the rest of those movies definitely impacted my viewpoint the first time around. And also, like, the first time you watch a movie, you're kind of just absorbing what's happening and really feeling it in the moment, because this one's the one about Rocket, and you see his backstory throughout the movie, and it's like pretty sad. I cried. I actually almost cried this time too. I didn't get like teary-eyed. It's always the part of them. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be like spoiling everything. I mean, I do that with all the movies, but I like to try to say it in here where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start talking about things now. It's the part towards the end when they're on the high evolutionary spaceship, and Rocket is by himself, and he goes and he sees those like little baby raccoons or whatever, and he's just kind of looking at them and reads the thing that says that they're raccoons, because like the entire series he's denying that he's a raccoon, and he just stares at them and probably thinking about like how innocent he was. Is like he started out as one of those guys before he got all experimented on or whatever, and then he decides to save them. It's like a very slow moment and everything, but it's sweet, and that's the part that always kind of gets me. I mean, there's like more sad parts too, like when his animal friends all die, or when he sees the otter, I think her name's Layla, in like I'm assuming like some kind of afterlife situation or whatever. Like, those parts are always sad too, but for some reason it's always the part with like the baby raccoons that gets to me. But yeah, the first time I watched it, I remember I was sad, and like I hadn't seen the movie since then. I don't remember when this one came out probably at least like 5 years ago. So I'm glad that I got to rewatch it. I was almost gonna rewatch at least the second one beforehand, because I also had it like recorded on YouTube TV, but my parents didn't want to. It was kind of funny. They're like, let's just watch the third one or whatever, and I was like, are you guys sure? Because you have to be aware of like at least like Endgame, what happens in that, because of like the stuff with Gamora and then the stuff in the other two movies. So I was a little worried rewatching this one with my folks of thinking like, oh no, they're gonna ask me like a billion questions about what's happening. But I mean, I'm sure they were confused during parts of it, and I at least had to explain about the stuff with Gamora of like, why doesn't she remember everybody? Which it's nice the movie does mention about that sometimes, because that was like the one thing I didn't like 100% remember. Yeah. And I remember I was also kind of sad about this movie originally when I watched it, because of the ending where the group splits up at the end, and that bummed me out, and I was kind of confused why so many of the characters were kind of like going their separate ways, but I think I'm okay with it by like this second time watching it. And of course I'm not as sad because like I know everything that's happening and I like know what's going on with the plot and stuff. There's not really any surprises. I mean, there's some things that I did like actually forget about, so that was kind of nice. Like I forgot that Groot, I don't know if it's like the only time in this series, he actually speaks in like full English, not just like I am Groot, at one point where he tells the group, the Guardians, that he loves them when they're having their little, like, this is the last time we'll ever get to talk to each other together moment and stuff. And that surprised me because I forgot about it. I was telling my mom, I'm like, I forgot this happened. But that was good timing, if anything, if there was ever a point where he was gonna like say something other than I am Groot. But I do always find that funny where it's like a character where we only hear them say a specific thing, but like all the other characters can understand them. I always think that's kind of interesting. Or they kind of play with that where there's these kids, I think they're called like the Star Kids, I saw in the subtitles. That's why I like having subtitles on, actually. Sometimes it just tells you the names of characters where you never really hear it in the movie otherwise. It's the kids that everyone rescues at the end, and somehow Drax is like perfectly able to understand their language and whatever. So that was cool too. Let me think. What else? The music, as always, is super good. I love the music in this whole series, even though it's all mostly like already existing music, and I don't know what that's like referred to when it's not a musical. Because I know for musicals that's called like a jukebox musical, when it's like music that already exists, that's like the story's written around. I mean, the story in this movie isn't written around the music or anything, but it's like all mostly existing music. But the soundtrack for all of these movies are great. I still remember when I went to Disneyland and I almost bought the soundtrack for the first movie, and I regret that I didn't get to do that. I was like just telling my mom about that actually. Before I started recording. But yeah, all the music in here is good. I think it's interesting how it's mostly throughout this series like 80s music, because that's when Peter had left Earth, and then at the end when he gives the iPod or whatever back to Rocket, it has music all the way up till the 2000s. I thought that was cool, because not only it means we get new music at the end that's like not from the 80s, but also I feel like it sort of represents how the group's kind of going its own way, and everyone's going in like their own way. The gang's split up, but like everything just kind of continues. Everyone's finding like their new purpose. So in a sense, it's not like they're all sort of stuck in the past, and the music, I feel like, kind of represents that. But the thing that's always so funny to me with the music, or it's one specific song in this movie. There's a Vocaloid song in here. Well, it's not originally a Vocaloid song. It's like by Chopin. I don't remember how his name's pronounced. He's the one of those like famous composers or whatever. He has this piano song that's a minute. That's I think called like Minute Waltz, and it was in this anime that I've not been able to find on Crunchyroll. I don't know where to find it. It's some anime. it's like Composer Lloyd or something like that, where it's like all these famous music composers are like reborn in the modern era or something like that, where they're not a bunch of like old people anymore. I still want to watch it. It looks funny, but there's a song in that. It's something carnival. I don't remember what it translates to, but it's this song that uses probably like 40 different Vocaloids or whatever. I'm making that number up, but there's a ton of them. I don't know how the person who made that song's computer didn't like freaking crash or something. It's a good song. It's catchy. And all of the lyrics are about, they're literally just listing like different breeds of dogs, and it's super catchy. And anyway, that song is in this movie, which means it's on the soundtrack, which means that Vocaloid is canon to the Marvel universe. And I remember all the memes about that when the movie came out, and I think I had heard about that before I saw the movie the first time, and I was a little bummed. I mean, it was good because I was trying to find the song, but yeah, it's that song. It's in this movie. I remember I was trying to find it the first time, and I like couldn't really find it. I remember I asked my friend about it when we finished watching the movie, and she had said that it was in the part where Cosmo has like their big heroic moment at the end of like trying to save everybody. But I watched the movie now, and it wasn't playing in that scene. That would have made sense actually, because it's a song about breeds of dogs, and there's a character who's a dog. That has like a big moment at the end, but it actually plays. It's very briefly too. It's like a little bit of a, like, it makes sense with the scene, but it's still a bit of a bummer, where the characters go to like counter Earth, and it plays on a radio for literally probably like less than a minute or something. And I get that it says like a song on the radio, so in the environment it makes sense, where it's like kind of, you know, when things are on the radio and it's like quieter, you're in like a big space in your house or whatever. It's not going to be like full on blasting or something. But it's a bit of a bummer because like every other song, because it's kind of hard to hear and it's so short, but like every other song in this movie is like on full volume, and you really get the chance to hear it as the scenes are happening. But like with this one song, for some reason it's like just kind of in the background. You probably barely notice it, or you're thinking like, what is that or whatever, but it's there. There's a Vocaloid song there, and it makes me happy. But yeah, I get why it's like that, but it's still just kind of like, aw. But yeah, that's one of the things I like about the movie, is that, and I still kind of wish, I'm thinking maybe, I don't think it's answered in the second movie, or if it's in like the Infinity War Endgame stuff of like why Nebula's part of the Guardians now, but I'm still glad she's there. She's a cool character. I feel like she kind of takes Gamora's place, if anything. I actually like that, like the whole group is there, but the movie mostly focuses on like, the story's about Rocket, but in terms of like screen time and stuff, I feel like it mostly focuses on Nebula, Drax, and Mantis, which I thought was pretty cool, because in the other ones they kind of feel more like side characters, if anything. I feel like the other Guardians movies focuses more on like Gamora and Star-Lord specifically, or Drax is usually like a comedic character, and then Mantis is introduced in the second movie, and then Nebula was like, I think, kind of a villain at first or something, but I like that she sort of takes like the lead role by the end, where she's like the person that leads the whole city, and then Rocket ends up becoming the the new captain of the Guardians or whatever. He's unconscious for most of the movie, but the story is like still about him anyway, where the whole plot is about the characters trying to figure out how to save his life, and they end up getting involved with the High Evolutionary, who I think is like a pretty cool villain. Honestly, he's kind of scary in that he like mostly looks like a normal guy, except he has like this weird stretched out skin, and you find out the reason towards the end of the story. But he has these, like, gravity abilities that almost kind of function like psychic powers, in a sense of being able to, like, move shit around or whatever. But I find him interesting where he's like not trying to like take over the universe or whatever, where he's just trying to like quote unquote perfect it, which is basically like he's constantly experimenting on people and then on animals and all kinds of things, and even making up like whole new like races of people and whatever, and then like throwing them away if he doesn't view them as like perfect or anything. It kind of made me think of, I guess maybe because they use the word perfect so many times, the blue creature in Courage the Cowardly Dog that says to Courage in his dream of like, you're not perfect or whatever. That always creeped me out as a kid. But yeah, he's an interesting villain, and I like that Rocket gets to invent, because he's like such a jerk to Rocket, not just like all the crazy experimental shit that he did to him, but like also how much he like puts him down, even though Rocket seems to be smarter than him, of like figuring out what's wrong with his like machines and stuff, of being able to like further experiment on people and make like the perfect species or whatever, and stuff. And he just wants Rocket's brain to like experiment on, and views the rest of him as like an abomination or whatever. And then it's really satisfying when the Guardians kind of finally take him down, and they do that thing where it's like you finally get the chance to kill the villain, and it's like 100% someone who deserves it, and then the hero main character decides not to. Usually that bothers me, especially with someone who like 100% deserves. And this high evolutionary character absolutely deserves that, but then Rocket says like, no, we're the freaking Guardians of the Galaxy, that's not, even though that's always kind of funny to me when they spare the person who like least deserves it, even though literally like 5 minutes before the whole team like slaughtered a bunch of people. So like the goons and everyone else can be killed, but like the person who's in charge that's causing all these people to suffer doesn't get killed. But I mean, with the most they leave him in or whatever, they rip off the mask on his face where he like recreated his face, and you see he's literally just like bones and kind of gross looking because Rocket like scratched up his face, and they just leave him there. I have expected it to be one of those things where it's like they spare someone and then that gives the villain like the chance to come back. Like I thought the High Evolutionary was gonna like show up towards the end and like try to kill them again, but no, they just leave him there. And I think the spaceship ends up blowing up or something anyway, so I'm assuming he's dead or whatever. But you know what? They at least the Guardians getting to beat him up towards the end was like satisfying enough for me, especially because he's not like a character in person that like appears for most of the story. You just kind of see him as someone in like Rocket's flashbacks, which the flashbacks are sad. I felt sorry for his like animal friends that they're even missing more like body parts and stuff. It always kind of breaks my heart seeing the bunny that named itself Floor because it's on the floor, that's like missing its mouth and I think also its legs, but it's in this like, it has these like spider legs and stuff. It's just like poor little animals, dude. Anyway, else. I do like that even though the movie's kind of sad, it's not like it's flat out depressing the whole time. I mean, there's a lot of sad shit that happens in the like Guardians movies and stuff, especially with like the characters' backstories. But I like that it balances out with moments where it could be lighthearted or funny. Like it is like mostly comedic, which is what originally got me into it in the first place, and it still is pretty funny. Like Drax and Mantis are two of my favorite characters because they're such a fun duo to watch, where Drax like does care about Mantis and the others, but he's also kind of a bully, and sometimes it's on purpose and sometimes it's just, I don't know, he is kind of stupid though. There's a part where Mantis literally calls him stupid and then she makes him forget about it and stuff. but their dynamics kind of interesting to watch. And I mean, I don't like that the group splits up at the end in the sense that, like, oh, their adventures are over. Their adventures continue, but, like, separately and stuff. But it kind of made me more sad of, like, Mantis and Drax splitting up, especially at the end where Mantis, like, I'm proud of her, of, like, she goes off to find out who she is, where she's not gonna, like, listen to other people anymore, and she even takes those weird, like, creatures with the, like, billion teeth or whatever with her, which I find funny. But it's also kind of like, oh, I don't get to watch these two interact anymore, and it seems like he doesn't want her to go at the end. But they're pretty funny. Those two are probably the reason why I like the second movie. So, like, the second movie's kind of hard for me to watch because, like, Kurt Russell's character Ego is, like, such a dick. But I like watching it. That movie's pretty funny. I might rewatch it again, actually. I still have it recorded on, like, YouTube TV. But yeah, Drax and Mantis are pretty fun here, especially at the beginning when the movie's more, like, lighthearted, where the characters have to, like, break into this biological research lab or whatever. There's some, like, cool moments there. And then eventually those two end up with Nebula, where they're on, like, the high evolutionary ship. I like the part when they're in jail, and they find the kids, and they're trying to talk to them, and Nebula's, like, screaming at them, and Mantis is kind of screaming at her, and then Drax decides to make, like, goofy robot noises and makes all the kids laugh or whatever, and then you find out that he's able to speak their language. That was pretty cool. Let's see. There's a lot of side characters from the other movies I forgot about. Like, the guy that ends up getting Yondu's... I also miss Yondu. He was a cool character in the other one. But the guy that inherits his little fin... I think that's such a cool, like, ability. I don't know if it, like, counts as an ability, technically. I don't know how, like, psychic it really is, or if it's all just, like, in the fin. But I think it's cool of, like, having that fin on your head and then controlling that little arrows thing by whistling. I always thought that was pretty fun. But there's this guy, I think he's from, like, the first movie or something, that has the fin now, and throughout the movie he's trying to, like, whistle to control the little arrows thing, and he finally gets to do it at the end, where he takes out these guys in this kind of high tense situation. That was pretty cool. Good to see, like, Yondu's ghost for a second there as, like, a you got this, listen to your heart kind of moment. That character, I don't remember what his name is, but he's kind of funny with Cosmo the dog. Cosmo was the other character I forgot about too, that I think is also in the first movie, who's that, like, Russian dog. I think it was, like, she's, like, the first dog that ends up in space or something, and I don't remember why she is, like, psychic, or I'm assuming the dog's I was kind of judging by the voice, but I'm not sure, of having, like, psychic abilities. And throughout the entire movie, the guy is telling Cosmo, like, oh, you're a bad dog, and Cosmo's getting, like, all upset about it, and then at the end, when Cosmo ends up bringing the spaceships together and able to, like, save everyone that way, then is finally called a good dog. Let me see. I'm trying to think of what else. I forgot that Groot really doesn't have much of a role in this one. But I also kind of get it, because there was, like, the, I guess, original version of Groot or whatever in the first movie, who then, like, like, Groot goes through a whole thing in, like, the series of, like, dying at the end of the first movie, and then by the time the second one is, like, the baby Groot, the whole intro with the second movie of everyone, like, fighting together to Mr. Blue Sky is, like, one of my favorite moments. And then throughout, like, Endgame and Infinity War, and I don't remember what else, other Marvel movies, where Groot basically grows up, and then by the time the third movie is, like, an adult and stuff. I guess because I was fine with Groot not really having a big role. Groot's kind of just more there for, like, support. I mean, I guess that's kind of always his role, but I don't know. He doesn't get more, I guess, growth in a sense, but it is nice he finally gets to, like, say something other than I am Groot at the end, and I noticed, and I didn't notice it the first time I watched, when they defeat the villain and rescue everybody, and they're back at their like HQ. And Groot goes to talk to Gamora and says the "I am Groot" thing, and then it seems like she's like finally able to understand what he's saying. Like, it's bad timing at that point where it's like their adventure's over, and she leaves and stuff, but that was kind of a nice touch. um I think it is kind of nice. I think I do kind of accept the ending now of like everyone seems like they're separated, and it's kind of sad, but they're all kind of like working on either self-improvement or seem to be, I guess, happier. I don't know. Like Gamora, like, yeah, she's not the Gamora that they like knew and everything. Like, they treated her as like dead originally at the start of this movie, to the point where I just thought that she was still like dead. Like, I actually don't remember how she got like brought back from the past. And it is a little sad when Peter mentions of like, oh, she came back and was brought back from the past, but like everyone else stayed dead. And it's been like a hot minute since I've seen Endgame, honestly. Anyway, but yeah, she goes back to like her Ravager group. I thought that was kind of nice. Like, when I first watched the movie, like the first time I watched this, I had assumed like, oh, okay, she's gonna like rejoin the Guardians, and they're gonna, even though she doesn't really remember them, because there was parts where she like saw the stuff in Peter's backpack and seemed to kind of be like bonding with everyone, but then she just goes back to her Ravager group. And I remember I was originally mad about that or whatever, but now I was cool with it because I forgot that like you actually do see her back with that group, which I forgot. Sylvester Stallone is the leader of that group for some reason. But she seems happy there, and there's a part where they all like, when she gets to see them again, they all go in to hug her, and she's like smiling, and it's like, oh, okay, those are kind of like her people now. Her like little group. And she seems to be like she's on like a nicer path now, I guess, maybe not as violent. I forgot that she was like originally like that in the first movie and stuff. And then Peter goes back to Earth and goes to like hang out with his grandpa. That was nice because grandpa's like super old at that point, and literally starts crying at like seeing his grandson, and even recognizes him immediately because it's been like what, 30 or 40 years or whatever. So I thought that was nice. And on that note, I liked that earlier in the movie when Mantis was trying to like get that through to him of like, hey, you abandoned your grandpa, you should go back and see him. And she says something of like, hey, even though he's probably like 90 or whatever, he's still alive, and you left him behind, and his daughter died the same day you left. Like, that's probably a lot for him, honestly. Like, I could understand him, like, kind of pushing his child grandson away. Not, like, rejecting him, but, he probably didn't want him to see, like, his mom dying in that hospital room and stuff. And, like, the whole series, Peter's kind of been going through that of like his mom's death. So I thought that was nice that at the end he just goes back home to his grandpa. It's probably good for him anyway, because he spent like his entire life in space and stuff, and he gets to kind of chill on like normal Earth as an adult, just hang out with his grandpa. When I had originally seen this movie in theaters, I remember there was the part at the end where the new Guardians, I guess, they're all sitting around talking about their favorite music, and I want to talk about that in a second. But there was another scene, and it was like right afterwards. I don't know if it's in like the Disney Plus version either, which that was one thing that was a little annoying, where I was watching this on YouTube TV, and I could like skip through all the ads and stuff, and then there was like this little pop-up, and it's probably not just specific to this movie, and it's probably just like a YouTube TV thing, where it would be this little box in like the corner, not even completely in the right corner, just somewhere on the right side at the bottom of the screen. And it would be like, you can watch this and more on Disney Plus. And it's like, cool, there's already like a billion ads in this movie. Do you have to just put them like on in the movie too? And it would be like literally blocking part of the subtitles. It was really annoying, but it didn't happen too much. That's like a new thing I noticed, and I'm like, But yeah, that scene of Peter with his grandpa, which is just, it's so normal too, where he's just eating cereal and talking to his grandpa, I think complaining about a neighbor or whatever. That I don't think was there when I was in theater. Because I remember hanging out for a while, and, I know that all the Marvel movies are, I'm assuming all of them have the, like, post-credit scene or whatever. Um, but yeah, I didn't see it. I'm assuming it was probably there, and I probably just didn't stay long enough. And then there was a thing afterwards that said something of, like, Star-Lord will return or whatever, which that, also I don't think was there when I was in theaters. So I was like, oh, okay. I was wondering maybe if that was, like, added on, because I know, and I'm recording this, by the way, for reference, December 1st, 2025. And I'm just saying that because this review is going to be put on somewhere in either like January or July or whatever of 2026. And I know at some point there's supposed to be like a new Avengers movie where they bring in like a bajillion characters. So I'm assuming he's going to come back for that. I don't know. I mean, I'm fine if there's not like a new specifically Guardians movie. I don't, as much as I love these characters in these movies and stuff, I don't feel like there needs to be a fourth one. I thought this was good enough where it's like you learn about Rocket, and it's like one final adventure to save him, and then the group ends up going their own ways. I feel like, I mean, it would be kind of cool to like see them together again, but I feel like at least three of them going off to do their own thing, for their own improvement and stuff, was like a nice way to end it. I feel like it would kind of ruin the ending a little bit if it was like, okay, they're back together permanently. It kind of makes me think of like Toy Story in that sense, where like I feel like the third Toy Story movie ended really nicely of like Woody, I think Woody stayed, where they like go with Bonnie or whatever. And then I guess the fourth one was fine, where he goes with Bo Peep and the others stay with Bonnie, and it's like a nice way for it to go. And now it's like they're making a fifth one where Woody's suddenly just with the gang again, and it's like cool, but you don't have to ruin a good ending like that, especially when you try to make it so meaningful. But anyway, yeah, I'm fine with the ending now, and it's kind of cool that Rocket gets to lead that like new group of the Guardians, where it has one of the kids from the High Evolutionary ship, who I guess is like part of their group now, and Cosmo and Groot. I noticed Groot's design was like a little different at that point. He was like a lot bigger. So I was kind of wondering how much time had passed at that point. And then Adam, oh yeah, I forgot about Adam, the golden guy. I had forgotten about those guys. I don't know what they're like officially called, where it's like the people that are all golden or whatever. I think I remember them from like the second movie. It's either the first or second. I think the second. I just kind of vaguely remember them, where there was like a bunch of them and they were in this like big spaceship piloting these like little spaceships, but I can't remember if it was the first or second movie. And I forgot from the last time I had watched this, they were like a group of beings that were like created by the High Evolutionary or whatever, but there's one of them who's like a main character in this, who's named Adam, which it was weird for me seeing him. Same with my parents, where they're like, I don't remember the actor's name, where we're like, oh, it's the kid from We're the Millers, except this movie is like years later, so he's like an adult now. But I like that he was, throughout the movie, he's trying to get Rocket. He was on, like, the villain side, but it was literally only so that his, like, people wouldn't be wiped out or whatever. So I get why he was doing what he was doing, and then Groot ends up saving him, and then he ends up saving Peter at one point, and that was kind of nice. It was sort of like a little pay it forward moment. Like, it was kind of weird of like, oh, okay, we're gonna watch Peter like almost die and like freeze to death in space again, because it was like a nice moment in like the first movie where I think he like gave Gamora his helmet or whatever, and that was cool. Like, it's like a nice moment here, but like the fact that it was like happening twice was kind of weird. But I thought he was a cool character. He kind of almost reminded me of like Superman in a sense of like abilities and stuff. But I like that he joins the new Guardian group, and the part when they were talking about music and he mentioned the band King Crimson, and I was like, dang, I really need to start listening to them again. And I liked his little companion. He sort of ends up adopting his little, I don't know what it was. It kind of looked like a axolotl, but if it was like really furry, and it's just like this little creature that follows him around. I don't remember if it was with him at the end, but I thought that was kind of cool. What else? There's something I'm forgetting. I don't remember. Oh, what was it? It was something about the music. The music at the beginning, I remember, was cool. I already talked about the vocal. Oh, okay, I remember. At the end, when you see like the new Guardians, Rocket, and it's like the last song that like plays in the movie or something. Plays this song, Come and Get Your Love, and I thought that was kind of nice. I'd almost completely forgotten about it, and it was funny because like after the first movie came out and I'd hear that song, because it probably started playing more on the radio, I could not, like, I could only associate it with this series, but I had forgotten about that completely until it like played at this point, because I haven't watched the movies in like 5 years or whatever, or at least the third one. I was like, oh, that's kind of like a nice way to wrap it up, because I was like the big song from the first movie, and then I was talking about the soundtrack with my mom, and she was saying like, why don't you make your like little playlist or whatever of just the movies tracks. So yeah, I might listen to the soundtracks again. I still want to get like a physical copy of the songs from the movies, especially because I literally just got like a new stereo like a week before I'm recording this, and that would be pretty nice, but I'll probably start listening to it again. But yeah, that's like pretty much my thoughts on it. It's a pretty fun movie, like still sad. I don't know, maybe because of like the Rocket stuff, it feels like sadder to me than the other movies and stuff. I think in terms of sadness, to me, it's like this one, the second one, and then the first one, like they kind of get like a bit more depressing as they go on. And there's also the thing too, and it was a little annoying, but I also like get it, I forgot to mention it earlier, where Peter spends the whole movie kind of bummed out and a little whiny, honestly, of like Gamora not remembering him. And I completely get it, because if I had like a loved one that suddenly forgot me, and she only loses like a few years of memory, which like in the grand scheme of things it isn't bad, but it means she forgot like everything with like the Guardians and stuff. But like if I had a loved one, especially if it was like a romantic partner or whatever that just suddenly forgot my existence, and you're trying to tell them of like, hey, we used to, like, it's not like he is kind of a little bit of like asking her of like, we should become a thing again, but he mentions about how like he really misses her and stuff, which that's like gotta be hard. Like he had to mourn her death, and then and almost have the universe like died from it or whatever. But then also the fact to have that person like come back from the dead, but like they don't know you, is probably gonna like mess you up, honestly. And plus his whole thing of like everyone he loves like leaving him or dying in some way. It's like the whole reason he's like, or part of the reason he's trying to save Rocket so bad. But the fact that he mentions of like, hey, if you're open to it, we could like try again or whatever, and she's like, yeah, no, that's not happening. Like, I'm glad on one hand she doesn't get back into it, or like back with him, and they part on good terms or whatever for the very little time they kind of like know each other again here. But yeah, that's gotta suck, man. But I think that's probably maybe part of the reason he like quit the Guardians or whatever. He was like so hung up on her. So then it's kind of nice that he takes a break from like everything and just kind of, I guess, focuses on himself, but like going back home to like his grandpa and whatever. So that's kind of nice as like a way to think of it. But yeah, that would be a really bummer situation. I don't even know what I would do if like a loved one just straight up like forgot me. And that's not just like a movie thing, like that can happen to anyone of either like amnesia or dementia and stuff. That's gotta be tough no matter what. But yeah, that's like pretty much my thoughts on it. Good movie. I'm glad I rewatched it again because I feel a lot happier and more happier about it, but also like more willing to rewatch. I'd rewatch this again for sure, because I think when I originally watched it and it bummed me out and stuff, I thought, like, oh, I'm probably not gonna watch this again. Like, when my folks mentioned, like, hey, let's all watch this movie together, I was thinking, like, no, I'm gonna get sad again. But I didn't cry. That was good. But also I realized, oh yeah, like, once you get past all the sad stuff and, like, know everything that's gonna happen, it's still, like, a fun and entertaining, and just overall it's a good movie. But yeah, I might rewatch the second one. I still have it, like, recorded on YouTube TV. I couldn't find the first one in there. Maybe I'll see if all my friends might want to watch that with me. That could be pretty fun. I feel like the first movie is, like, probably a good movie out of the three of them, is like a, hey, just watch it with friends and chill and whatever. But yeah, the second one I might rewatch, and maybe I'll do a review in that as well. Oh yeah, one more thing. My little mouse mascot. I know it isn't moving on here. I kind of just added it as part of the background. I'm trying not to have too many photos and elements and things, at least on this computer. But I still wanted the mouse on there because it felt, my little mascot mouse, because it felt kind of weird not having it on it, because it's, like, part of my channel brand identity. It's like my little mascot, But yeah, good movie. I might watch more. I might watch some of the other Marvel movies too. I've got an Amazon Prime. One of my relatives bought the first Avengers movie. I don't think I've actually ever seen it. So that'd be nice. I'm not gonna watch, like, all of the Marvel movies unless I, like, decided to with a friend of, like, hey, let's watch all of them in order or whatever. But at least rewatching a couple would be nice. Alright, bye bye.